Hey friends, welcome back to Faith to Impact. It's great to have you here. My name is Dustin Hill, as you know, but it's great to have you here. And I'm excited to share a lesson that I learned today from Draymond Green. So he is a three-time NBA champion, which is so cool. So he played basketball all of his life. He ended up going to the Warriors, which haven't done traditionally very well, but obviously him and Steph and Klay Thompson and others have really changed that around and have some amazing championships and things like that. And so it's part of the Apple ecosystem. They have Apple Fitness. And so with that, there's like these walks that you can do. So you can go listen to some people while you're going on a walk. And so, and hear some of their story and some of the things they've learned. And so I did that the other night. I think it was like 10 at night. And I was just like, I just need to go on a walk. So I went on a walk and just was listening to Draymond. It was really cool to hear from him. And I'm excited to share one of the lessons that I have here. And I actually have a few others, so I'll probably share those in the future too. But yeah, so Draymond, he grew up playing basketball, like I mentioned, something that he really cared about, and that he was tall, he was big, he was fast, he could play well. And so he did that growing up. And so he talked about how as he was in high school, so he's a freshman, he was on the freshman team, and he was averaging like 27 points a game, which is kind of insane, right? 27 points. And so he was going in there and having a good time. But he eventually obviously wanted to play on varsity, right? He felt like he was good enough to be, he wasn't able to do it that year. And so, his mom had talked to him about, being a leader and about the importance of doing well in school and all of these lessons that he talked about. And as he was going through that freshman year, he was doing great in basketball, but then the second semester of school, he started to kind of slip up. So he wasn't, really paying attention as well as he should have. And it was in one of his science classes that he was down to the very end of the year. He probably just needed to get like one question right on this test to pass the class. But because he hadn't been as diligent that year, what he did is he actually brought this like cheat sheet to the test, and he had it underneath the test. And so he's going through and doing the test and looking up and trying to see if the teacher can see him, and kind of thinking he's being all sneaky about it. But he's basically cheating on this test, right? He's going through and finishing this test. His teacher obviously notices what's going on. And so he actually let Draymond go to the very last question. Once he got to the very last question, then his teacher came over and said, hey, like, this isn't going to happen, bud. You can't just cheat, during your test. And so what ended up happening is he ended up having to go to summer school. He failed the class. And so he had to make it back, and be able to actually, pass that class. And so he ends up having to go to summer school. But however, remember, he's huge into basketball. Like, this is something he really wants to do. He wants to go play in college. He probably wants to play in the NBA as well. And so especially when you're that into it, you've got a lot of stuff going on during the summer. And so he was up in Michigan, and there were some camps at Michigan State. So he was going to go to that. And then there's some tournaments down in Las Vegas. So all these things are going on during the summer, but he has summer school. And so his mom says, you can't do that stuff this summer. You have to do summer school. And he's all upset and just like super frustrated with it, because he knows that he has more potential. He's got to get on the basketball court. He really wants to succeed, and he knows that this summer is going to be important. But his mom's like, no, you can't. You have to do this. And so what's interesting is he had all of his friends coming over and saying, hey, Draymond, we need you. Like, we need you at this tournament. We need you, to come play at this camp. Like, we need you. You're so good, and we need you because this, upcoming basketball season, we got to get better. We got to continue to grow together. And so he had all these people, coming to his house, and his mom having to say no to them and having to reject them, essentially say, hey, sorry, like, Draymond can't do that. And, it goes on, and Draymond is just why can't I go play? Like, why can't I do this? Like, summer school, like, isn't that important? And so why can't I go and play? And his mom taught him a really powerful lesson and said, Draymond, if you don't figure out your grades right now, then it doesn't even matter how well you do in basketball. You won't be able to get into college. And so she knew in that moment that she had to say no. She had to stop it right there and say, okay, Draymond, you can't go on from here. You have to fix your grades right now. And she knew that if he spent that summer wishing that he could go to these camps and doing that, but then focusing on school, that he would then learn that lesson of, okay, I got 3 more years and I got to make sure that I keep up my grades so that I can actually get into where I want to go. And so to me, I think there's a couple really powerful lessons from this. Number one, it's really important to be able to say no, right? It's important in this case for Draymond's mom to say, no, you're not doing that, because because she knew where he wanted to go, which is really the second, lesson I took away from this, is that she saw his potential and she knew her son well enough and knew what he wanted to do. She knew that he wanted to go play basketball in college. She knew that that was a goal for him and he really wanted to go to Michigan State. But she also knew that he had to have the grades that would allow him to actually get into school, which is really important to think about and to know that, hey, we need to know our kids enough so that we can understand where they want to go and then be able to help them, and then not be sorry about saying no for certain things that will help them get to where they want to go. Now, obviously they need to make decisions and things like that. And so it's all up to them. We can't control everything. But I think it's a really powerful lesson there that we should know, our kids enough so that we know what they want and where they want to go, and then be able to have the foresight to say, you know what, if you really want to go play in college, you have to have good enough grades. And so right now I know that as a freshman, if you learn this lesson, you can make it happen over the next few years. You're very talented at basketball, so then you can actually get into the school that you want and you can go play. And so I think it's really important. And I know that, being able to say no is super important. And, as I talked about yesterday, I'm not doing the 75 hard challenge right now. And I will eventually do that. I'd love to do it at some point. But right now I've said no. And to me, that's brought me a lot of clarity and a lot of focus, knowing what I want to do. And so for my personality and a lot of people in my family is we are peacemakers. We're if you look at the color personality test, a lot of us are white. We want peace. We want everyone to be happy and stuff like that. And so with this type of personality, sometimes it's hard to say no, because you want to help everybody. You want to be able to serve, uplift others, and do everything that you can to do that. However, if you're doing everything for everybody, then you're kind of doing nothing for nobody or for everybody. But it's that same kind of thing, though, that if you really are so spread thin, then it's going to be really hard to master something. It's going to be really hard to do really well and to make an impact on somebody. And so it's important for you as well to be able to say no, to be able to decide, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do this thing because it doesn't align with what I want to do. It's not aligning with where I want to go. And so that's a really important thing to remember and to do. And so I encourage you to just remember that. Remember those 2 takeaways. Number 1, the power of saying no and why that's important. It allows you to then focus on what's most important. And then number 2, helping say no for your kids and really understanding what they want so that you can actually help them get to where they want. And realizing that sometimes we have to suffer now, in a sense, like Draymond did during that, summer. He had to suffer then so that he could then do better in school, so that he could actually go to college where he wanted to go. And so I'm excited. I have a couple more lessons that I learned from Draymond. So I'm excited to share some of those because I think they're really cool and really powerful for all of us. And so appreciate you tuning in. Hope you're doing great and you're excited for an amazing weekend. Thanks again for supporting this podcast, this channel and everything. So make sure you rate and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.